Is this a great game or what with the Hall of Famer Tim Quirkjian? I'm his son, Jeff Quirkjian. And Dad, what a week of baseball it has been. We're still trying to figure out how exactly to do this podcast with all these games going on. So we're recording this Thursday afternoon with the news of the Blue Jays advancing to the ALCS. Potentially tonight, we could have two more teams advancing across the National League Series. But we're recording before then, so we're not sure. So we won't have that information for you. But so in anything in today's episode, we won't have any Thursday night action on our release this Friday morning. Just so everybody knows, wanted to say that right up at top, so nobody got confused.
And just to show you what kind of crazy and great postseason it's been, and what an amazing regular season given its unpredictability. Before we did our game on Wednesday at Yankee Stadium, Eduardo Perez, Carl Ravitch, and I, Ravi looks at me and says, all right, which series is most likely to go to 5 games? So I said, I think it's this one. Yankees are at home. Cam Schlittler's pitching. It's a bullpen game for Toronto. I think the Yankees are going to push this to 5. And of course, and I actually thought the Phillies might get swept, and I thought the Cubs might get swept, and I was wrong on everything. All 4 games, I was wrong. So I wasn't predicting a sweep or anything else. I'm just trying to show you again how unpredictable this beautiful game is, and how this postseason has just followed what was an incredibly unpredictable regular season.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing, and I love the amount of baseball. I just don't love when my team starts a game at 9:08 Eastern Standard Time. It's just...
And you have morning radio, Jeff, with a 4 a.m. wake-up call. It's not easy. I get it.
Well, before we get more into the series and more into the playoffs, Dad, I know that today is a very special day in our family.
Right. Today is my father's birthday. Jeff Quirkjian would have been 106 years old today. He died in 2003. As I've told some people, my dad was a big Red Sox fan growing up. He was born in 1919. He died in 2003, meaning he was not alive for any World Series championship by the Red Sox. But that didn't deter him, Jeff, from loving the game. My dad loved the game as much as anyone I think I've ever met. He gave his 3 boys, Andy, Matt, and Tim, he taught us how to play the game. He taught us how to love the game. He gave us a feel for the game. And this podcast, Jeff, is all about my father. I mean, the name of the podcast, Is This a Great Game or What? It's not only the name of my second book, but it's the name of the podcast because that's what my dad used to say, because he would watch games and he could see things that most people couldn't because he was such a good player in his time. And he would just look at me like, how did that happen? And just, say rhetorically, is this a great game or what? And Jeff, as you know, he was a PhD in mathematics, MIT undergrad. So my love of baseball statistics comes from my father, Pop. And of course, Jeff, we named you after my father. And I can tell you without hesitation, Jeff, he'd be so proud of you with the way that you've turned out.
Yeah, I don't want to get emotional, but, he passed away when I was 10 years old. And I remember so vividly going to his house, especially around this time of year, October, because you were traveling. It was your busiest time. Obviously, it was like that or spring training. And normally we would be with you for portions of spring training during our spring break as kids. So October, Dad's out there covering different series, covering the World Series. So we wouldn't see you much in October, and you were around a lot growing up. Let me make that abundantly clear. But I remember watching so much baseball with him. And I remember, too, people would always ask me growing up, like, oh, who's your favorite team? Who is your favorite team? And I would always say, my dad never really took me to games and put a jersey on my back and said, we're Orioles fans, son. We live and die by this team, because you covered the game. That was not the way. You took me to so much baseball. I had so much exposure to the game. That's why I love it. But I was always rooting for the story, just like you. But the team that I ended up really becoming a fan of was the Boston Red Sox, even though I grew up in suburban Maryland because of my grandfather, because of your dad. I grew up next door to him. And when he passed away in 2003, entering the 2004 season, I felt as if I needed to carry on the fandom of the Boston Red Sox. That was the first year I ever went to Fenway Park, August 9th, 2004. And obviously, you fast forward less than 2 months or less than, 3 months later, they win the World Series for the first time in 86 years. And I felt like it was so poetic having my grandfather looking down on his team, helping them out. I mean, call me a 10-year-old kid there believing in something bigger than baseball. But I still believe that to this day, that carrying on his fandom and watching the Red Sox win a World Series was just everything.
Right. Pop, we all believe that Pop was up in heaven pulling strings. So the Reds, because the next year, the year after he died, they became the only team in Major League history to come back from a 3-0 deficit and win a postseason series. Jeff, as you said, he lived right next door to us, he and Nana, for 10 years. And I'll never forget, he could hit when he was 75 years old. I mean, I would throw tennis balls out in front of the house up against the garage, which we did relentlessly when I was a kid. So I would do it to you and to him. And I'll never forget one day, we're playing in the driveway and I'm pitching, and I throw to him and he hits a couple of searing line drives at age 75, which always just amazed me. But I also remember that same day, Jeff, my car was parked across the street from the driveway because I had to move it out of the driveway so we could take BP. So the window in the front door of the driver's side was open about this much. It was maybe open by about a foot. And I'm throwing BP now to you with my dad, who's just taken BP, standing right behind me. So 3 generations of Quirkjians, and you hit this rocket line drive like right past my head, and it went through the window, through the opening of the window in the car. And Pop just looked at me like, I can't believe he just did that. It was almost mathematically impossible to hit a ball through that very small opening in the car. That's one of just a million times with my dad that I can remember a baseball story. I've told so many of them on this podcast. I'm not going to repeat them all, but just everyone needs to know that this is a relationship show, and the relationship between my dad and myself was the strongest and best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And Jeff, we named him after you after him. That was Pop. He was the best.
Deb, we get messages from people who listen to the show who say, I listen to this with my son now, and my son's 12 or whatever. But we also get messages of, hey, my dad passed away 5 years ago, and I really have been disconnected from the game since then because it was something we loved so much. And reading people's messages of hearing how our show has helped them connect with the game and in turn connect with their late mom or dad is
Right.
is pretty powerful. And it sounds selfish to say it like this, but it really is the coolest thing for us to do this together, but also to do this for others that enjoy it as much as we do it. So it's just really special. It's a special day in our family. We remember the original Jeff Quirkjian, the greatest of all time. Just the best.
Right. So we're going to leave on a laugh with Pop, okay?
Please.
I know I've told this story. You're going to hear it again. So my dad was so good at teaching his boys how to play. And we'd be out playing all the time. But if we're inside, it's the winter, or we can't play outside, he would routinely throw a pillow down in the middle of the rec room and make sure we knew how to make the double play, both from the shortstop side and the second base side. Keep your foot on the bag so the umpire can see it. I'll never forget these little lessons we got. And he would always show us, and then he would throw the ball into the couch just to make sure, and he would throw it, kind of sidearm to make sure, as he would always say, you got to make that runner slide. You got to get him down, throw it right at his head if you have to. And my dad was a pacifist, didn't want anyone to get hurt, but he was teaching us lessons. So one time he airmailed the couch and the ball went flying over the couch and it went through the French door window. And that was a very expensive French door window. So Nana, the greatest mom, the greatest wife, the greatest grandmother of all time, she hears all this and she starts walking downstairs because she had a rule: no ball playing in the house. We never followed that rule.
Nope.
We followed everything my mother said except for that. So Pop sees that mom is coming down. All right. Mom's the bad cop in the house, even though she's the sweetest lady ever. And he just looks at me, his youngest son, and says, Tim, tell mom that you did it and I'll get you off easy. So that was my dad. He was always up for a laugh, but I repeat, he loved the game as much as anyone I've ever met. And he is the inspiration for this podcast. This hopefully will make you laugh. All right. I travel with Carl Ravitch and Eduardo Perez for the ALDS. They are my two best friends at ESPN. We have done 1 million games together on TV, on the radio. We sit right next to each other in the booth. There is no better assignment. Eduardo is the greatest teammate ever. Ravi is the greatest point guard ever. I can't even begin to tell you how much I love working with those guys. So we were at a game in Toronto, and Eduardo's a little bit busy in between innings, right? And I asked him a baseball question, and he like says, look, I don't have time for a baseball question. I'm arranging a helicopter. So he arranged, Jeff, that when we got to New York, he was going to take a helicopter from JFK Airport to downtown Manhattan. All right. It's like $120 Uber ride. That's how far it is. And the traffic is outrageously bad. So Eduardo, who is just the cleverest guy in the world and the most adventuresome guy in the world, he arranges to go on a helicopter, and he takes a helicopter ride. It cost, I'm amazed, only $260. There was one other person in the helicopter other than the pilot, and they got from JFK to downtown Manhattan in 7 minutes. How about that?
Wait, and he took this on his own? You did not go?
Of course not. I'm afraid of heights. I'm not going in a helicopter.
Were you invited?
No, he was coming into JFK on a different time. I came into LaGuardia. I was not invited because I wasn't traveling with him. But this is so classic Eduardo that he would do this. It was so funny. We joked around the entire game about Eduardo the helicopter. It was great.
Well, Dad, I have to say, too, is it because he was flying to JFK because he flew out 5 hours later than you did? Because
that's a given.
You covered the Yankees Blue Jays at Yankee Stadium. The game ended at roughly what time?
It was late, Jeff.
And then you got on You got on a flight at what time?
6 o'clock. Yeah, I got 2.5 hours sleep. I'm doing this podcast, Jeff, on 2.5 hours sleep. So if I forget to put Bo Jackson on the all college football team again, I will be forgiven. But the best part about Eduardo is this implies that he's going to take a helicopter and pay $260 for 7 minutes, that he's some pretentious diva or something like that, when he's actually the opposite, because we were on the road for so long. Eduardo went to a laundromat in Manhattan. Instead of sending his laundry out to the dry cleaners at the Hyatt Grand Central Hotel, he found a laundromat. He was dragging his clothes through Manhattan, and he sat there for like 3 hours doing his laundry. And he took a picture of him in front of the washer dryer. It was so funny. $10, he said he did all of his laundry for $10. It was like 40 quarters or something. It was just hilarious.
And the beauty of the dichotomy of that. I took my helicopter in here. Do you have any laundromats around here?
Right, exactly. I just thought it was a beautiful juxtaposition. You take a helicopter into Manhattan, and then you drag your dirty clothes around and find a laundromat. It was just beautiful. Yeah. And last thing, you know what I know all about now? Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny came to Yankee Stadium the other night. Now, I will acknowledge, at age 68 and knowing nothing about music, been to 3 concerts in his life, that I know who Bad Bunny is. I know he's Puerto Rican, and I know he's a rapper, and I know he's wildly famous. But that's all I know. I don't know the name of any songs or anything else that he does. I'm not sure how. I don't know anything, but I know his name because it came up a couple years ago. So Eduardo was explaining the whole thing that and then a friend of mine hears this conversation on the air and sends in that Bad Bunny has a name of one of his songs' name is Mr. October, and it's Reggie Jackson is in it. So this guy sends it to me. So I say on the air to Ravi and Eddie, "Oh yeah, my favorite Bad Bunny song is Mr. October." And Ravi, who knows me better than anyone, just looks at me and he goes, on the air, he goes, "Who sent you that?" Like he knows
knew.
that there is no way that I could have come up with that on my own.
Well, you have surprised us all with like an all Adele team, and you've done a lot. You have grown a lot in your latter years, Dad. I'm proud of you.
I'm not sure about that. I was a little disappointed when I attempted some humor on the air when this is so bad. When I said on the air, I said, "Yeah, Bad Bunny, I'm told after I recognized one of his songs, I'm told that his favorite player is Hall of Fame shortstop Rabbit Moranville," which Eddie and Ravi just didn't even react to that. They just thought it was so galactically stupid that we moved on to the next pitch. Thank goodness, right?
Yeah.
Rabbit Moranville.
Good
who
one,
will
Dad.
who will be in this podcast again before we're done today. That's a promise.
Yeah, and is his favorite tagline Bad Bunny? What's up, Doc?
Yeah, Bugs Bunny, Bad Bunny. I know which one I know a whole lot more about.
All right, Dad. Now let's go to the takeaways. What do you got?
Okay, well, the only series that's over as we tape this is the Blue Jays beat the Yankees 3 games out of 4. I am so impressed. I told you from the beginning, Jeff, the Blue Jays are better than I thought they were. They are an elite defensive team. They had really good starting pitching, and they won game 4 using 8 pitchers. Wow. In a bullpen game. They held the Yankees to 2 runs and beat them 5-2. I was really impressed with the Blue Jays, but I was mostly impressed with Vladdy Jr, which I've always been impressed by him. But he went 9 for 17 in the series with 3 homers and 9 RBIs. Plus, Jeff, he made some really good defensive plays, and he scored from second on a single. So don't let anyone tell you that he's just some big lumbering first baseman, because he's not. He's got great feet, he's got great hands, and he runs better than people think. So let's understand that. And he just kills the Yankees. In his last 10 games against the Yankees, he's 23 for 42. He's hitting well over 500 in his last 10 games against the Yankees. And the beauty of baseball, Jeff, a teammate, Ernie Clement, not even close to being the same player offensively that Vladdy Jr is, he got 9 hits in the series also. So the last time that any postseason series featured 2 guys on the same team get at least 9 hits was the 1995 Yankees with Don Mattingly and Bernie Williams. So that's what we saw. And of course, Jeff, Vlad Sr. is a Hall of Famer. And I think this is a bit this might be a bit surprising for some people. Vlad Jr. won a Gold Glove, and Vlad Sr. never won a Gold Glove. And he had one of the great throwing arms I've ever seen. Plus, Vlad Sr., again, great player, Hall of Famer, hit 2 home runs in 44 postseason games, and his son hit 3 in 4 games against the Yankees. Pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
Second thing is, speaking of great players, Jeff, Aaron Judge, we can now drop the narrative that he's not a good postseason player, because he was stunningly good. In this postseason, he went 13 for 26. In the series against the Blue Jays, he went 9 for 15, while the rest of the team hit 207. So you can blame a lot of people for getting the Yankees not advancing, but you're not going to blame Aaron Judge. And I'm telling you, Jeff, the home run that he hit in game 3 on an 0-2 pitch that was a foot inside. And Jeff, this is really deep inside baseball. But the hardest thing to do on a pitch inside is to hit it hard and keep it fair. Because when it's that far inside, the natural tendency is to pull the ball and you hit it into the seats. But when you pull your hands in, as Judge does so exceptionally well, he not only hit the ball really hard and really far and really high, but he kept it fair. Paul Goldschmidt, his teammate, said that was the most perfect swing I've ever seen. And Paul Goldschmidt is a potentially, at least, a future Hall of Famer. So that's what Aaron Judge did. And
Wow.
Eduardo and Ravi and I were talking to George Springer of the Blue Jays, pretty darn good player himself. And we were talking about the best players in the game and everything. And we got to Aaron Judge and he said, well, he doesn't count. It's like, he's too good. We can't even count him. We can't even put him in the discussion because he's too good. And he said, really, Aaron, he says, just be human once in a while. Well, he was superhuman in this series, and it still didn't save the Yankees, who just didn't hit other than him. Their starting pitching wasn't very good. They made a crucial error, Jazz Chisholm, in Game 4 that cost him. So the best team that Aaron Boone has ever managed in his 8 years with the Yankees, it was out after 4 games. Were you a little surprised by that, Jeff?
I was surprised by Game 1 and Game 2. I mean, just at the end of the day, the lackluster performance, the lack of offense from them. I mean, I was proud that they took a game because I hate to see a sweep, and that's the conversation after a great season from a New York team. But, I mean, down the stretch, you got to win more games. You got to take the title. It's a huge advantage to be one of those 1 or 2 seeds, and they couldn't pull it off. 3 AL East teams all facing each other in the playoffs. I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that. And I loved watching this series, but
Right.
The Blue Jays, you're right, Dad, were the better team.
Right. And Aaron Boone said after the game, they took it to us. And Jeff, when you're playing a team that's just as good as you or has more power or whatever, like a bigger team like the Yankees, you got to go after them. You got to punch them in the face first, because if you let them punch first, you're going to probably lose. And that's what the Blue Jays did. They were ahead for almost the entire series, and it showed. That's how they won. Now, we just have to mention a couple others, even though it's a little bit odd because these series are maybe be decided tonight. But I have to pass along. I was in the press room the other day at Yankee Stadium. I'm not even going to tell you who it is, but the Tigers were down 3-0. And the Tigers have had a difficult series against the Mariners trying to score runs. They've struck out 1,000,000 times. They haven't hit with runners in scoring position. And the Tigers were down 3-0. And this former player just looked at me and said, God, the Tigers stink, like that, right? And he's half joking. But then, of course, the Tigers score 9 unanswered runs. And the same former player looks at me and goes, Tigers, team of destiny, like that. Like, that's what happened in a 3-inning span when the Tigers scored 9 runs in this incredibly unpredictable season. You can go from the Tigers stink to they're going to win the World Series because they're a team of destiny. That kind of personifies this season. You agree?
That is the most Tim Kirkjian statement, but when it comes to the Washington Commanders football team, we go down the field 75 yards in 5 plays. We're going to the soup. And then pick 6 in the next possession. We stink. I'm never watching again.
Right. But Jeff, you understand the difference there is this former player knows everything about baseball. I don't know anything about football anymore. Ever since they went to the bubble
Skinny
screen
post.
and the skinny,
I knew
what
you were
is
gonna
a
say
skinny post, Jeff? What does that mean? I ran a post. I know how to do that move. It's great, but I don't know what a skinny post is.
Yeah, when you gave up pasta for like a year and a half before your daughter's wedding, that you looked like a skinny post.
Right. Well, thank you very, very much for that, Jeff. Right. Well, yeah. Okay. And last thing, again, I hesitate to bring this up because there's no telling where the Phillies are going to be when this podcast comes out, but you got to mention Kyle Schwarber, who hit 2 homers in game 3 against the Dodgers. And again, I believe, help me here, Jeff, you might know more than me. The Phillies go as Kyle Schwarber goes. He is such a leader on that team, much like the Yankees with Aaron Judge. When he hits a home run, it's like everyone in the stands goes crazy and the team gets closer knit because the star hit one. Well, Kyle Schwarber hit 2 home runs, one that went out of the stadium at Dodger Stadium. Trey Turner said, I can't believe how far he hit that ball. Trey Turner hit 304 this year. He's a really good major league hitter and has power, and he was just dazzled by Kyle Schwarber. So right now, Jeff, only Manny Ramirez with 29 and Jose Altuve with 27 have more home runs in the postseason than Kyle Schwarber, who now has 23. So am I right about this? They go as Kyle Schwarber goes.
They go as Kyle Schwarber goes, Dad. It changes, it shifts the mood. And listen, the back end of the lineup for the Phillies has pulled a lot of wins out. We're talking Max Kepler, Harrison Bader when he's healthy, Brandon Marsh, Bryson Stott. They pulled out a lot of good runs. But when 1 through 3 are not hitting, which they did not in game 1 and 2, they're not going to win these games. But game 3, boy, oh boy, were they hitting. And Kyle Schwarber with his Schwar bombs, it makes all the difference, Dad. All the difference.
Yeah, pretty good. Okay.
All right, coming up next here on Is This a Great Game or What? We've got your Quirkjians. We've got a Team Tim, and we'll come close, not quite, to wrapping up Ozzie to Orel, and then a little surprise at the end. That's coming up next. All right, Dad, your Quirkjians, what do you have for us?
Okay, this just shows you how much baseball can surprise you any day. So game 4 of the Blue Jays against the Yankees, Louis Varland started. It was a bullpen game, but he started for the Blue Jays, and he had pitched in relief the day before. And it was a potential clinching game. So I called Frank at the Elias and said, when's the last time a guy pitched in relief one day, started the game the next day in a clinch situation? So Frank, who's so funny, writes me back and he goes, you're not going to like this, Tim, because you know what I love, Jeff. Yeah, that hasn't happened since 1911 or something.
Yeah,
so
it happened yesterday. No, just kidding.
Frank writes me back and he says, you're not going to like this. It happened last week.
No.
It did. Yes. Andrew Kittredge of the Cubs pitched in relief, and the next day as an opener in a bullpen game, he started, and that was a clinch situation for the Cubs. So I was hoping for something, it's been 50 years. And as it turned out, it was like 10 minutes. It was incredible. Just again, Jeff, what this speaks to is the game that we play today. Okay. This never happened until about 10 years ago when the opener came in. It's happened 10 times. And I think I read this properly, but it happened in 1906. And then it didn't happen again until about 10 years ago. This is just how the game is played. Jeff, I left this out. It was in my notebook, and I can't believe I forgot this. But in the Reds-Dodgers series, the wild card series that I covered, the Dodgers took Emmett Sheehan out of the game, even though he had a 1-2 count on Will Benson. Okay? So they hit for Will Benson when the new pitcher comes in, and so now it's a 1-2 count on Miguel Andujar, who strikes out. But since the count was 1-2 on Will Benson, the strikeout goes to Will Benson. But the strikeout doesn't go because it was a 1-2 count. But the strikeout doesn't go to Emmett Sheehan. It goes to Alex Vesia, the reliever, because he got strike 3. You don't see that very often.
No, you don't.
And I remember 1988, Frank Robinson, the very impatient manager of the Orioles, took Jay Tibbs out of a game with an 0-2 count. Not 1-2, 0-2 against Jose Canseco. Had hit 2 line drives down the left field line, foul, just crushed him. And Frank had seen enough. He took Jay Tibbs out of a game with an 0-2 count. Never seen that before or since, but I saw a guy get taken out of a game with a 1-2 count. And then, again, the strikeout went to a guy who wasn't even in the game when the strikeout occurred.
That's crazy that it wouldn't work the same way both ways. But I mean, I
Yeah,
understand
both
it.
ways.
Yeah.
Right. That's the way it goes. All right. Last thing, Jeff. This came from Nathan Prange. I hope I said Prange, Prange. He wrote to me and he said in game 4, the Tigers against the Mariners, in the 7th inning, Spencer Torkelson saw 9 pitches before he saw a ball. Okay,
Yes.
so it was like called strike, swinging strike, and then 6 foul balls. So 8 pitches had been thrown, and not one of them was a ball. So I called Frank from the Elias because I'm not sure how to find something like that. And of course, it only happened 2 weeks ago. Josh Naylor happened to him with the Mariners, but in the postseason, it happened last year with Jose Iglesias. So not as odd as would you think it would be a little bit more unusual, a little more
That's a
rare,
lot of
Jeff,
pitches.
that the first lot of pitches and the first 8 are strikes and 6 of them were fouled off and 9 pitches in and there hasn't been a ball thrown.
Well, the only strikes I'm counting right now are 2 strikes on you with totally whiffing with Frank from the Elias trying to find something. Because now you've got something that happened last week and something that happened 2 weeks ago. Dad, you're just swing and a miss.
Right. But again, this is the beauty of baseball.
Miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you're not asking Frank from the Elias, you don't know.
Right. Totally agree.
All right, Dad, we're going to veer from tradition here just a little bit. And we're going to do on this date in baseball history for October the 9th, which is the day we are taping. And the day we usually come out with an episode is on Thursdays, even though this one is coming out on a Friday. So what do you have for October 9th?
Right. Well, again, this is a tribute to my father, Pop, your grandfather. We're going to do this on October 9th, his birthday. On this date, 1928, Babe Ruth, for the second time in his career, hit 3 home runs in a World Series game. Nobody else has ever done that. And how many times have we said that about Babe Ruth? No one else has ever done that. And I love this, Jeff. I remember it like it was yesterday. On this date in 1999, it was Nana and Pop's 50th anniversary. And we were having a party at our house. They lived right next door to us. And we had a big weekend plan. I hope I don't say any of this wrong. We had a big weekend plan, but I was covering the postseason, and I would have had to have gone to Arizona the next day and missed some of the great festivities with our whole family in town. And then Todd Pratt of the Mets hit a walk-off home run. The Mets clinched, and I didn't have to go to Arizona. I got to stay home for an extra day in October to celebrate with my parents and all of our relatives that were in town. So I don't root for anything, Jeff, but that day when Todd Pratt hit a homer, I'm not rooting for the Mets or against the Diamondbacks. Just something happened, and I went, oh my gosh, I don't have to go tomorrow. I can stay home with my mom and dad and all my children and everything else. So it was great.
Yeah, if you had any of your children born in October, I think you'd have to legally change their birthdays, because I'm August, Kelly is February, and Kelly had the audacity to get married in late September. Now, you would never miss a wedding, of course, but I told my now wife, Emily, she wanted to have an October wedding in Las Vegas, and I said, no, we just can't do that. And you scolded me back and said, Jeffrey, I would never miss your wedding. Of course not. And I said, no, we're doing it in April. I don't care. We're not going to put you in that spot. We got to stop having holidays in October. It's just not the way it works.
Right. Right. Kelly wanted to get married in October because of the weather. And then she said, no, we can't do that. Dad's too busy in October. So they switched it to the end of September, and it was great.
Close enough.
Okay. Couple other things on this date. In 1898, Joe Sewell, Hall of Fame second baseman, was born, Jeff. You know, we talk all the time about the strikeout rate, different game, different time. He was the all-time hardest guy to strike out. He struck out 114 times in his career, Jeff. I didn't even look it up, but I promise you 150 guys struck out 114 times this year. That's just how it works. And he did that in 8,333 at bats. And just for example, 1932, he struck out 3 times in 576 at bats. I mean, Ryan McMahon, for instance, and others had four strikeout games this year. And Joe Sewell had 3 strikeouts for an entire season.
Wow.
Also, another birthday on this date, Freddie Patek was born 1944. Freddie Patek, Jeff, was a 5'4" everyday shortstop for the Kansas City Royals. And I grew up watching him play and being the tiniest guy on the field. Freddie was not, he was short. He wasn't little. He was short. As we know, there's a difference. He was a strong guy. He had 3 homers in one game at Fenway Park. So I always loved Freddie Patek because he was the little shortest guy in the field, and he was really, really good. And last one, Jeff, and this spurs, and I hope I say all of this properly, the team Tim, and it has to do with Bob Moose. And this is kind of sad, but Bob Moose was born on this date, October 9th, 1947, and he died on this date
No.
in 1976.
Wow.
Bob Moose, who was a pretty darn good pitcher for the Pirates. So so this is fairly obvious, Jeff. The team Tim is with Bob Moose being born and dying on this date. What are we going for?
The all animal team?
Absolutely. So we're going to start with Greg Bird at first base, Nellie Fox at second base, Jake Lamb at third base, and get this, Jeff, today's his birthday also.
No. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so we had 2 guys on the all animal team who were born on the same day. I love that. And Rabbit Moranville, Hall of Fame shortstop,
The aforementioned.
is our shorts. The second time we've used him in this podcast. Rob Deere is an outfielder. I could tell you 100 Rob Deere stories. Boy, he was a man-child. He's one of the biggest, strongest guys I've ever been around. Struck out a lot, but boy, when he creased one, it went at like 500 feet. He was something else. Mike Trout, of course, and Turkey Stearns. So I covered them. Bob Moose is one pitcher. Randy Wolf, Mike Parrott,
Catfish Hunter.
Catfish Hunter.
There it is. Knew it.
Right. Doug Bair, spelled B-A-I-R. And our catcher is Barry Lyons, Lyons, but plural Lions. So, yes, so that's the team Tim for today. All spurred by Bob Moose, who was born on this date and died on this date. So kind of sad, but hopefully okay.
From Ozzie to Orel, Dad, what we do is we give you the best player to wear each number. And we're coming towards the end because we're already at 52.
Okay. Number 52 is CC Sabathia, who just went into the Hall of Fame. Sabathia, 251 wins, 3,093 strikeouts, and a winning percentage of .609. So when you look at those 3 numbers, 251, 3093, and .609, the only other pitchers that can match all 3 of those numbers in baseball history, Greg Maddux, Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, Tom Seaver, Justin Verlander.
Wow.
That's a pretty special group of guys. And one reason he's a Hall of Famer is he took the ball whenever his team needed it. When he got traded to the Brewers, he pitched on short rest. As a free agent to be, maybe today if someone might say, I'm not going to pitch on short rest, I might get hurt and ruin my next contract. Not CC Sabathia. And I think we did this last year, Jeff, but he's on the all initial team also, guys who go only by their initials. We'll do that again some other time, but he's the greatest player in baseball history to go by his initials, JT Real Muto and
JJ Hardy.
JJ Hardy. We gave the whole list. There's some really good players, but the best guy ever to go exclusively by his initials is CC Sabathia, the greatest number 52 ever. The best number 53 is Don Drysdale, one of the great Dodger pitchers of all time. He won 209 games, had a 2.95 ERA. He made 9 All-Star teams. He won a Cy Young. Of course, he had the record of 56 consecutive scoreless innings, which was broken by Orel Hershiser in 1988. Hershiser got to 58. And I love this. Orel told me that after he came out of the game after breaking the record. And you know who interviewed him on live TV after the game? was Don Drysdale.
No
Because
way.
he was a broadcaster for the Dodgers.
Wow.
And he went down and interviewed Orel Hershiser after Hershiser had broken Don Drysdale's record.
So
And
cool.
I thought that was really cool. And I'm amazed by this, Jeff. He had 49 shutouts, and he won 209 games and had 49 shutouts.
Wow.
So one every 4.2 victories in his career was a shutout.
That's crazy.
Think about that. Isn't that crazy? So that percentage, no one's ever had so few wins, even though 209 is a lot, with that many shutouts in the history of baseball. That's who Don Drysdale was.
Wrap it right here with 3 cards in the bathroom, Dad. You've taken cards from home.
I just pulled them out, okay?
Yep.
And the first one, oh boy, is Kevin Seitzer. These guys are all, because Kevin Seitzer was a really good player for the Kansas City Royals. Once had 6 hits, Jeff, once went 6 for 6 in a major league game. And he is the hitting coach right now for the Seattle Mariners. But I remember Kevin Seitzer for other things. He got hit in the face with a pitch. And then he got hit in the face again with a pitch. And after the second one, he put up the bar on his helmet, the flap on his helmet to protect his face. And he looked at me in all seriousness and said, look, anyone who calls me a wimp, you can go ahead and do it. But the only one who is allowed to call me a wimp is someone who hasn't been hit once in the face, but has been hit twice in the face.
Good point.
Again, Jeff, this is the difference between them and everybody else. Kevin Seitzer not only came back from 1 beating, he came back from 2. And by the way, Jeff, pet peeve, all right? Beaning is when you get hit in the head, okay? When you get hit in the foot, or you get hit in the butt or in the back. You didn't get beaned. You got hit by a pitch. Bean represents the head. Am I wrong about this? Am I being a pedantic little twit about this?
Well, back to the buck naked. I feel like a lot of people say beamed with an M instead of beaned. I do think
really?
I've heard it on broadcast, hand to God. I've heard people say it around the ballpark. And I've heard coaches say it to me when I was umpiring. He beamed him. And I would say, Coach, he beamed him. And also, it's, the kid can't throw. He's 10. So don't be mad.
That's totally wrong. Okay, second one. This is a challenge for me. This is Mike Lacoste, good pitcher, Royals, and then the Giants. I do remember that his nickname was Buffy. And it was in part because he looked like the little girl who played the daughter, Buffy, on Family Affair, which was a sitcom that was out of the 60s and the early 70s. Sebastian Cabot and Brian Keith and all this. Buffy Lacoste. That was a pull for me from way back.
Hey,
and the
put
third
it up,
one,
producers.
One is Billy Ripken, of course, the younger brother of Cal Ripken. And Billy Ripken, don't let anyone tell you differently, Jeff, was a great defensive second baseman. And once in a playoff game, and I'm not going to be critical here, but Roberto Alomar of the Orioles in a playoff game bailed out on a double play because he was going to get killed, okay? And Roberto Alomar was the best player on the team, including Cal Ripken Jr. Roberto Alomar was that good. So after the game, I said to Billy Ripken, off the record, now it's on the record, but I said, Billy, is he allowed to bail on that play? And Billy said, yes, he is allowed to bail because he's our best player. And if he gets killed and gets hurt and can't play, he said, we're in big trouble. He said, but I would not have bailed on that double play, and I would have made that double play because I am not him. And my only way to stay in the major leagues is to hang in there on that play. Do you understand that? Do you get that?
Well, we've heard many stories of Cal Ripken Sr., who also raised Billy Ripken, and the man who puts a power drill through his nail is raising boys who'll do just about anything.
Right. And Billy Ripken would do just about anything to stay in the big leagues. And I had so many laughs with Billy because I covered him on the Orioles in the 80s, covering for the Baltimore Sun. So one morning at Fenway Park, it's a Sunday morning, And Billy is he's eating a chocolate donut roughly the size of a tire. Okay, it's gigantic. All right. And he's in the clubhouse, and it's, like 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday at Fenway. And he says, all right, what am I going to do here? Do I go to chapel or do I watch the Three Stooges? That was his question to me. What should I? And he's eating a chocolate donut. So he watched the Three Stooges for a couple minutes and then went into chapel. So all sorts of things can happen.
So obviously games last night, but tonight we'll have game 5 between the Mariners and the Tigers. The winner of that will be in Toronto, where you will be. Look at you, you Canadian man. You've spent a lot of time on the other side of the border, our northern friends. You're going to go see family in Toronto, right?
Yes, right. We have a bunch of cousins. I'm going to see Aunt Susan. I'm going to see Aunt Donna. It's going to be great. We're going to have a great time. And maybe Eduardo will come back and he and I will go to a Bad Bunny concert in a helicopter. What do you think about that?
You never know what's going to happen when you're with Eduardo.
With Eduardo, you never know.
Thank you so much for listening. And as always, thanks for being a part of our family.